this evening about how we all appreciate and deeply heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you who have come out tonight, who have spent your time to be with us to celebrate these two young people as they start their lives together. I want to take a moment and recognize, particularly in this crowd, some very important people who have been instrumental in forming these families that you have heard talked about, okay? And I'd like to start with my wife, okay? The mother of the bride, who I don't think gets enough credit at these events, but she is the heart, the soul, the foundation of what we call our family. There you go. And branching from there, I want to recognize her mother, Sydney's grandmother, who has traveled from the St. Louis area to be with us here this evening.
All right.
Thelma, we thank you. Next, I want to send a special shout out to my father, Jacob Marshall Sr., who at 90 years of age has gone from one coast all the way to the other to get to be with us. And I recognize, travel is no fun sometimes, when you have to be on an airplane that's too cold, too crowded. But Dad, thank you. We appreciate it all. Now to all the aunts, our uncles, brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, and all of you who have been a part of our family, we have embraced you, all our friends, those folks who have been, again, memorable, instrumental. We all love you and we appreciate you coming out and being with us today. Thank you very much. So, now I get to really just relax and say a few things. First of all, I want to say thank you very much to Onyx. How about Onyx? Yeah, big shout out. Onyx, you're doing a great job. Great job. Thank you very much. Brett, the kitchen staff. Hey, that was a delicious meal, huh? Thank you. We appreciate that. That was delicious. Okay, now I'm really, I like to move around, but they tell me I should stay in this one place, but here I go. Can't see me? All right, here we go. I move a little bit. All right, so, as I've been told multiple times, how these things work. Yeah, I got to greet everyone, okay? Then I get to tell you a little bit about myself, okay? Exactly, okay. For those of you, just to give you an understanding of what this uniform represents, okay? This is the Air Force mess dress uniform, okay? I married my wife, Mrs. Marshall, 30 years, 1 month, and 17 days ago. In this very uniform. I'm not going to stay there. There's a little nip tuck, a bit out here, there. There's a few different boards on my shoulders, a few more ribbons on my chest, but that goes with those 30 years. And I thought it just appropriate that I married the woman I love in this uniform. And the woman that we have made together. I got to hold her hand and pass her hand in marriage to a wonderful young man And in this uniform, I'll be able to look at those pictures and remember. And when I look at it, I'll remember that day that I married your mother and how happy I was on that day. And when my daughter got married. So that's a little bit about me. All right. Now, Brian. Here we go. All right.
Tell it, brother.
Jim, I thank you specifically, okay? I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for this young man that you've raised. This young man that has grown up to be such a powerful, strong, courageous, loving, and believe you me, ladies and gentlemen, knowing my daughter, patient. Did I say patient?
You did.
Patient. Okay. So not to embarrass my daughter, but I have to tell a story. She is in the foyer, okay? She is the reason, okay? She's the last person to walk through those doors, okay? For her wedding, right? Right? She comes up to me and says, Daddy, I'm missing my ceremony. They kept me away. I can't hear it. I can't see the people walking out. I said, Sydney, you can't be in the ceremony and watch the ceremony at the same time. Come on. You're going to come through the door and everyone is going to see you, love you, applaud you. Be patient, dear. Okay, so Brian. All right, so like her brother says, 2 years ago, Sydney is very, very discriminating, okay? She knows what she wants. She understands. She's got these values that she has been endeared with, if you will, and engendered by her mother, myself, and all of our family, about finding people who are real, okay? Knowing what's true, knowing what's in your heart, knowing what's in your gut, understanding and recognizing that when you tell somebody something, it's your word, okay? It's your bond. It's who you are. It's what you stand for. You're not talking about just talk. You're not about show. You're about substance. And she found somebody after all these years, okay? As the boy said, I don't call him relationship challenge, but you know, Brian is the first person she's ever asked us as a family to come meet. Okay? So we live in St. Louis. She's here in D.C. and she's asks us to come to Washington, D.C. and meet Brian. So, okay, so we're at a restaurant. I'm sitting there with Karen, myself, Jacob Morrell, and Sydney. She gets here and Brian comes a little later. And he, we've been working on this. He walks in, pants down halfway on his butt, shaggy, looking a little rough. And the guy never smiled. He didn't smile. He didn't crack a smile at all. And I'm saying, what's up with that? When you want to make a good impression on your family and you know somebody, you want to smile, right? Well, it took about 45 minutes into sitting down talking. He finally cracked a little smile. I said, "Okay, all right, I know, give him some time." All right, so fast forward another 3 months, 4 months, okay. The city brings him out to us in Collinsville, and we sit down and we talk. Okay, just he and I. Okay, and he says to me, Dr. Marshall, I'd like to ask your permission to ask your daughter to marry me. And I said, wow. Now I call myself old school, but I thought that these kids in this day and age, that was something that was like, do they really think about those sorts of things? So I was kind of floored. I was saying, well, there's a respectable individual. Golly gee. You know what I told him? I'll think about it. So, okay. I won't say yes now. I'll think about it. Okay, man. All right. Because they were there with us about 3 days. And, so we have this tradition, if you will, in our family. We live out in the country, Karen and myself, and our children before they went off to college in other parts of the world. Excuse me. So we got a large area where we have a bonfire, okay? And it's called a truth stick, okay? Our family stands around the fire, this big bonfire, puts the stick in there, and you got to tell something about yourself personally. So we had our little mini truth stick bonfire out there in the backyard, the four of us. And we just talked about it, okay? Talked about what life meant, okay? What a family meant, okay? And what it meant to be in this family. And I think that's when the first time I said to Brian, man, it's got to be forever, okay? You get into this family, you're asking my permission to ask my daughter to marry you. And there's only one thing I want you to understand. This is forever, okay? This is not anything but forever. And Brian says to me, Dr. Marshall, I do. I understand that, and that's exactly what I mean. And I said, okay, I'm with you, brother, okay? You can ask my daughter to marry you, and if she says yes, I'm all behind it, okay? So, getting down to how meticulous this young man happens to be, okay? Now, again, fast forward another 5-6 months. He has it all laid out, planned how he's gonna do it, okay? He asked Karen and myself to come to Georgetown, puts us in a specific restaurant. Clarion, where are you? Stand up, Clarion. All right. So, a little backstory. Thank you, Clarion. The first date that they spent, they're in Georgetown. They're walking up M Street, and some homeless person, says to those two as they look at them, as that person looked at Sydney and Brian, say, hey man, you ought to marry that girl. Now, honestly, they're just strolling up the street, the first day of their first date. So, what does Brian do? Brian recreates that, okay? Because he is gonna, in the middle of Georgetown on M Street in Wisconsin, okay? Get down on his knee and propose to my daughter. And he put his good friend up to mimic that homeless person. So when Sydney and Brian are walking up the street, Clarion in all his best outfit to be a homeless person, stops the two of them and says, hey man, you ought to marry that girl. And Cindy says, you see, it's fate. You should ask me today. Now I got all this on videotape because I'm across the street with the camera. And what does he do? He asks her to marry him. And I said to Karen, this guy's for real. This guy is for real. So, Brian, welcome to the family. Sydney says, Dad, he's perfect for me. And I said, Sydney, if he's perfect for you, then he's perfect for us. Welcome to the family. All right, wait a minute. No. Okay. So, that's Brian. Now we get to talk about my daughter. Sydney Elise, my dear lovely daughter, my only daughter, our only daughter, not mine, our only daughter. I tell you, my dear, the day your mother gave you to us, my heart probably has never been higher, or at least equal to the day that I married your mother. You were the most beautiful bundle of joy.
Take your time.
I have ever experienced. You were such a perfect little, beautiful little girl. Lots of black curly hair, perfect little hands and feet. And I swear, you were smiling then, you know? And all the years that you have graced us with your presence, with your life, the gift that God has given us, that is you, are cherished. And as you go now to live your life with your husband, okay? There are a couple of things I want to say to the two of you, okay? And here they come. You are now Mr. and Mrs. Brian Bush Ferguson. You are now something greater than either one of you two were alone, okay? You are now, as was mentioned by your uncle, a family. Your branch of the Bush, Ferguson, Marshall, Nash, Evans, and it's wonderful to see what the two of you have and to know how much you love one another and how much you mean to one another and how important the two of you are to one another, okay? So, every day of your life, as you go from this day forward, always remember, whatever decisions you may need to make, whatever hardships come your way, whenever you think me, I, you step back and you think, wait a minute, how does this decision, how does this thought, how does this that I think I'm about to do, how does this move Mr. and Mrs. Brian Bush Ferguson? How does this make you all better as a family, okay? And honestly, I think that when you have that in mind and have that in spirit and have that in truth, that God is your rock, love is foremost in your hearts, and you think the two of you together in every decision that you make, that your forever will be forever. Come rain, shine, sickness, health, hardship, you will overcome without problems, without a doubt, okay? But always remember, it's never me, it's never I, it's us, okay? And when those beautiful grandchildren start, you know, when you be ready, you know, because they will be what you, your brothers, and everyone who has had children recognizes that there are challenges, but you never give up. You never give up. You always go forward. So, again, I want you to look at one another here right now. All right. The face you see right there, okay? That face, remember in your hearts, you will grow old together with that face you see in front of you right now. But that face you see in front of you right now will never grow old. Ladies and gentlemen, to the lovely Mr. and Mrs. Brian Ferguson.